They can eat that.
Later on. So here we are, and the subject is going to be a continuation of what we started yesterday, which is about death, how it affects our minds and our life. So what observations did you come up with?
Well, I was concerned with the grieving process. We seem to have feelings, and we have to show respect for the dead. People cry or they're sad. Laughing is not acceptable. You don't see people like laughing and joyous. They're not allowed to do this. It's shunned upon.
You mean when somebody dies?
Yeah.
Just, okay.
Yeah, and they don't give a length of time for the grieving process. Everybody's different. And then when it's over, that's it. You go back to normal. So why not just be happy at first? You're going to eventually be happy again. Is it something that we're taught to be sad?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a matter of learned behavior, because it's like with anything. If you break something, a physical object, a lot of times somebody will get disturbed. Oh, you broke that. So then you learn like what's going to happen if you break it or crash it, like a car. The reaction is not happy because that thing is now useless or destroyed, or it takes a lot of effort and money to repair it.
Yeah.
And the same is true for any kind of thing that happens. We're taught like a logical reaction. There's a pattern to how we behave. There's exceptions to it, like with a piñata, you're supposed to smash it because it just exists for a certain amount of time. And then you break it open, the candy falls out, and you can get something else. So the piñata is kind of a symbol of death, because where something is like this, temporary, it's really beautiful, but then all of a sudden you break it, it's destroyed, and something else comes out. So death can be like a release of the candy. So it can be like a celebration. I just made up that symbol just as an example. There could be other examples to symbolize what we're talking about. But you bring up a very good alternative to imagine, because what if we were taught to react in a different way to death?
Yeah.
What if it was, because do you have any examples of that?
Well, I know when you get an abortion, people, they don't have any feelings. They're taught not, they don't have to react. It's acceptable.
Because it's their rights. They're created as a right, it's a choice.
Yeah, but some other people, because other people can have a reaction because you weren't sad, they can protest. They protest the abortion.
Right. People process that because the reaction that they do is that it's doing something bad. You're doing something evil. It's wrong, and they want to point that out to the abortion.
Yeah,
the abortionists, those women who have decided to go that route. But I think that they cause the death of something that's unborn, and it's like destroying potential. That life, what if it could have been Jesus? What if the mother of Jesus just decided to abort him? Yeah, you can make jokes about it, but the point is, we kind of have an overall consensus that he was a really good guy. If he got aborted before he was born, that would have changed history, right? So, but this is talking in the hypothetical. Would an abortion happen to somebody who by destiny was supposed to be born? No. So you have to be careful when you get consumed by the hypothesis or the hypothetical idea. You have to be really careful that doesn't really lead to truth. It's just a twist on your thoughts. Now, when it comes to with the abortion, those people complaining about it, how clear thinking are they? Because if those women don't want to have a kid, they wouldn't end up being a good mother. And even if they gave up the kid for adoption, and then those orphans would go on and maybe have adopted families, and maybe, and then those people should have a right, should experience having a kid, right? So that's another thing. So you're actually dealing with two really intense issues. People that can have kids want the kids from the people that don't want kids, who are aborting them. How do you get these two groups together to cooperate?
I've never thought about that until you brought it up. There should be a new type of organization in the future that links people who are aborting and people who need, and people ought to be told that they can abort. They have to.
But you see, you have people that are in that industry already. It's with adoption agencies. They've existed for a while now, and they kind of fill the need of this vacuum that's created by the abortion industry. So these clinics that are doing the abortions create this like emotional black hole, because all women that have unplanned pregnancies have to consider going to that industry. And then what happens is, as soon as you have one possibility, you got to also be aware of the opposites. So it's always like that. When the world cries out to you and says, abort it, kill that thing, you don't have to have a child, then the opposite happens. No, you're going to have this child. It's a natural thing. That's a possibility. Or just give birth to it, and then another mother and father can take it.
Yeah.
So you automatically create this controversy or conflict or very intense kind of experience, realm of experience. Having a child, a child's not always wanted, because they say it's not. Oh, because you don't have to want it. Just because you got pregnant, you don't have to want it. Well, why'd you have sex with the guy? Oh, why the guy doesn't want to be a father? There could be a lot of different reasons like that, because people are not respecting life in the first place. We need to prevent that, but this is becoming like a whole discussion about abortion. I don't think we intended that. I think that we should focus back on death of a living person, especially adults. Sometimes you have young people die, but the average is, an adult. That'd be interesting to know at what age do most people die?
Yeah.
At which age has the majority of death?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, because there was a death of a baseball player, and they had it on TV last night. They had the game. They played the Mets, the Marlins, and the Mets played in Miami, and people were upset. The person hit a home run for his friend. He batted righty. The pitcher batted righty, and so he batted righty just to show respect for him. And then he took the first pitch, and then he turned around to his lefty. That's what he bats at, and he hit a home run. So he hit a home run for his friend. But these feelings that build up, is it practical? I mean, you don't have the same feelings for a fetus as you do someone that has a career or something, and you feel like something happened. something's wrong,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So that tells you right there that death brings this evidence that we're not all created equal. Not created, but we're not all equal because of the status we reach. You're talking about this famous baseball player. A lot of people have feelings about it, but then somewhere next to the stadium is a woman that just had an abortion and nobody knows that she just got rid of this unborn baby. Nobody cares about that because
no,
nobody knows. The baby wasn't born, didn't do anything. How do we know it was good or bad? It wasn't famous. It didn't bring us excitement, and it didn't have a
yeah,
whole lot of friends that were famous baseball player friends. So not every being is equal, and so that has to be
that's a good
faced.
point. That's a good point.
When it comes to the death, we add that up. We add the total of
So,
their effect. What's when you die, like, what's your ranking?
what's your
Some people die and it's like nobody even notices, and then you tell them, well, this person died, last month, and you're just like, whatever, and it happens all the time.
yeah,
That guy, the baseball player, died, but he's not the only guy that died yesterday. I bet you can't tell me anyone else that died.
a lot of people
Plenty
died.
of people died.
A lot
So
of people died.
see, death brings about this whole idea that we're not equal, and it's probably better to die after you've accomplished something and made an effect on the world. Maybe even more than just playing baseball. Life is to be lived to make a big impression, make a big effect on others.
So that's like the time limit of the grieving process. The more
Okay.
the more you're ranking, the more successful you are. That that has meaning on how you're gonna find yourself to be, upset and grieving about a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
How long it takes.
Yeah, the person. Well, it has something to do with that, but
Is there like a time
if
limit?
you have a very big emotional connection with people. So the baseball player, I don't know how long that's going to last. Like, it's good because there's just young people. These young people that play athletics, professional
Yeah.
athletics, they're young. They don't see a lot of death, and it's like, you're going to shed a few tears. It's like, hey, he didn't die on the battlefield. He wasn't fighting for his life. And that pitted battle against nations. Dying in some trenches. The guy was joyriding.
Yeah.
The guy was drunk. He was carousing. He was having a good time. He probably was womanizing to who knows what else. I don't know. I'm sorry. But the fact is, he was driving $1 million boat with a big salary and living high. Okay? So I don't know how much you can cry about it, to be honest with you. I don't know. But other people, however, that day, and I mentioned to you, do you know anyone else that died in Syria? Innocent civilians and children are getting bombed the hell out of because Russia and the U.S. and possibly China's involved are having their proxy war, their thing with ISIS and all that other smoke and mirrors going on, and this kind of like intrigue. Not intrigue, it's out in the open like it's a hot war. This ain't no Cold War going on anymore. So how would you like to be one of those slaughtered people that and most people are just like, I don't know. We can't report it because actually the news station has been blown up and the newspaper can't even print it because that's all gone. So their whole society, cities of millions of people are getting demolished. And some guys can sit around crying, you pay, you do your $1 million salary and go run around the baseball field. Big deal. What did you do? So let's just get everything in perspective when it comes to death.
Yeah.
Grieving is about in what context the person leaves, like what position they have and what people are going to do to react to it. Here you say, oh, it's a sports player who died. It's not a sports player. It just happened to be what he was doing. He's what is he, Cuban? Because it's a Cuban who died.
He's Cuban.
Or you could say he's a 20-something-year-old male who died. You know, it's not right to give someone a eulogy. Oh, this is what he. No, I bet you what was he? He might
He
have
was a
been.
pitcher. He was 24-year-old pitcher.
No, but here's what I'm saying. That careers are like a mask that they put on, and when someone dies, you fix this mask to the eulogy and you say this is what they are. How do we know what they are? Just because that's what he was doing at the end? Is that what you are? See what I mean? I mean, people are going to have to grieve over something that they attach to. And it may not be the right thing. It might not be accurate, not what the person wants. So you're going to have to establish, a person gets established for something and known for something. Then when they die, all that's going to come back up. Like David Bowie, for example. I wasn't sure exactly when he died. I wasn't following the news, and I heard he was going to do like another album or something. He hadn't done anything that I know of. I wasn't popular for.
Are these people in their own world, like Michael Jackson?
Well, here's the thing, and also you can talk about Prince, and a few other ones of the past
And
few
Arnold
years.
Palmer. Arnold Palmer died too.
I don't know who that is.
A famous golfer.
Oh, okay. Okay. But when it comes to, like, for example, David Bowie, he was kind of sick for a while. And when he died, he had been relatively faded away. I don't want to say forgotten, but he wasn't at the height of his fame, like you would say maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago. If he died then, they'd be like, oh, wow, this, incredible creative rock artist. Okay, come over here. And somebody died after the fact.
Yeah.
You can say. So people aren't grieving as much. People aren't grieving because they already seen him. He lived his life. He got his money. He got his glory, and then he went on for a number of years and just was private and got old. So it has a different effect. It depends on if you die. If the individual dies in the middle of doing something and there's a very strong focus on them at the time. I think that all of this makes specific categories that we can study of how people live and then how they die, because they match up. So that we can come up with a certain number of mathematically calculated categories where one combines with another one. You can go through all the possibilities, and then you can rank them according to what's the most common.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, a study of death would be very useful, not only fascinating. I think we need to use this to understand what's going on. Did you want to say anything else about the grieving thing? Because we started this whole long thing. I wonder if it's still recording. Yeah, we started this whole long video with the idea that it's a arbitrary decision. It's an arbitrary position to take on death, is to be sad and grieve about it. And other cultures, wanted to give you some examples, but I don't know exactly. I do know that in Mexico they do things a little bit differently when somebody dies. If they die of some kind of sickness or old age, they usually celebrate it.
Oh.
Yeah, so even Mexico, which is close by to the United States and the West, they're a part of the West, they deal with death different. So they go around celebrating and do parades or something like that. But what I wanted to say was interesting, that on a mystical level, really spiritual awareness, we need to be facing something, and that's the idea that the soul of the person dying does not want to hear loud crying or sadness.
That's interesting.
That's not good for them as they're leaving the body. They're leaving this earth. Because they can still hear. It's not that you don't need your ears to hear. There's a sense of the soul that picks up that vibration. So the vibration of sadness, the wailing and crying and grieving and being like all shattered about somebody dying, that is not a good thing to express. It's not good to take it like that. Because they're just putting on an act. They're putting on an act. Yeah, I know, it's hard, but 9 times out of 10 you see it coming. Like deal with it. Deal with it. And especially for the sake of the person, you're crying so much because you love them, but then you're like, what are you doing to them? You're freaking them out. They're the one that's going through something. They're the one. You don't see it because they go to the other side, but they're the one that has to do this whole transition when they die. I mean, that is serious. That's like the irony. It's a paradox that the biggest thing about life is dying. That's the biggest thing you'll ever do here. Bar none. I mean, whatever you do in life, guess what? Your biggest act is when you leave.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. When you die, get ready you better put on a good performance. Because you have no idea what to expect or what you're going to do.
That's true.
Yeah, so you've got to be ready. And everybody, I'm telling you as advice, spiritual revelation, when you're getting ready to die, trust me, you don't want to hear a bunch of people around your body or even a few days afterwards like crying and going on and on and on and just being destroyed. Because guess what? You're going to feel so bad that they're going through that. You won't want to leave, but guess what? You have to. It's a horrible thing to see that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine dying, which is bad enough, first of all, because it's like your biggest thing to go through. You're dying, but then you're looking at 10 people that are so attached to you, and they're just destroyed. They're completely devastated, and you're seeing them and hearing them. You're feeling how they are, and you're like, oh man, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm out of here. What? Oh man, then it's terrible. I'm leaving them, and this is what it's done to them. It's guilt. You'll feel a guilt. You'll feel hopelessness. So we don't want to do this for dead people. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like, grow up. Be mature. Have some spiritual awareness. When someone dies, don't go around there crying. Hold yourself together. And if you did love them, then what you're doing is getting the best from them. You're remembering the best that they gave you. What did you like about them? And keep that. Maintain that. Maintain your composure, especially right around their death. Because they need you to be okay. You don't need them to be okay. Because there's nothing you can do. They're dead. There's nothing that can be okay. They're dead and they have to go through that. It's the great mystery that we all look at. It's the great mystery. So there's nothing you can do for them, but it's for yourself. They want to know for yourself that you can be okay to live however long you're going to live. Okay? Because another bad thing is, if you do that when they die, and someone else dies, imagine when the person dies and they've always grieve and be sad. When they die, they're probably going to freak out and they're not going to transition very well because they don't understand death at all. So, you want to tell us anything about your insight about death and how you think it should be handled?
I think that covers a lot of areas. I like the mystical part because you're looking at both worlds, the world of beyond and the world